we have to create the right vibe, you know, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another post-match edition of a Purely Arsenal podcast. It's early Monday morning in England, and I've got James Johnstone with me, willing to speak to me after that 0-0 drab drivel draw at Leeds United at Elland Road. How you doing, James?
Yeah. Had better days, obviously, football-wise, but yeah, no, it's all right now. The sun is just coming through here, so.
Is it really? Oh, that's good. I thought we'd pour with rain. Lovely. Well, that's always nice. There's always something to look forward to. 2 weeks, mate. 2 weeks we've waited for a response, if you like. We wait for a response. I think it's been hard in the national break for everyone, no matter who you support, because you know we can get into the logistics of international breaks and how mind-numbingly stupid it is during a worldwide pandemic to be playing more games in a 2-week international break than we've ever played before. And then we can also get into the logistics of how some of our players are getting, well, you know, bordering on physical abuse with the amount they're having to play in these games, so we can get into that as well. I want to start. I mean, Leeds versus Arsenal, there's going to be a lot of negative people out there talking of, on podcasts in the next sort of 24, 48 hours, and we're going to get to that because there are a lot of things to talk about, and it wasn't the response that we wanted to see by any means in a lot of instances. But as we talk about the lineup, I think there might be some positives to talk about here in terms of, at the very least, what we saw on paper before we saw it put into action. You went through the lineup and you post your lineup, you know, pre-game. I think we talked about it a lot over the last sort of 48 hours. What were you happy with, James, in terms of the lineup, and maybe what were you happy with, which is going to be harder, in terms of what you saw?
Yeah, so first and foremost, obviously, like you said, system-wise, that if you want to call it 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, whatever way people want to go about it, he implemented what everybody has wanted since arguably the first game of the season, really. Okay, personnel-wise, everybody's got who they like, who they don't like, etc., etc. That was pretty much exactly what we wanted to see. For me as well, I didn't want to see Saka, just like what you said, played so many games, and then also from that, I was just like, this guy's risking burnout or injury if he starts him. And, you know, lo and behold, who won the pony there, you know, as I said, I mean, people go, oh, you can't say just because we played him, that's why he got injured. And I'm like, yes, we did need him on there because he is arguably the most, if not one of the most creative players we have. And I still believe he has the most shots this season out of all of the forward three that we have. And you compare the money that we've spent on him compared to obviously Saka. That's, you know, it says everything, doesn't it? When is he what, 18? Is Saka 18 or 19? I can't remember. I think he's 19.
Yeah, I think he might have just turned 19 recently. Yeah, I'm like,
possibly. You know, Arsenal Football Club are relying on a 19-year-old. Nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it just says everything. We're the best outlet that you've got when you have the likes of Pepe, Willian, Aubameyang, Lacazette is the 19-year-old from your academy. Just says it all, really. But I was happy somewhat to see Joe Willock get in, but then it just leads back to that standard of, okay, all these players are getting picked that we all want to see picked, and then when they do get picked, they drop 6s, 5s, 4s. You know, they don't. For me, it's like, okay, show your manager what he's getting wrong. You know, utilise, because it's all about, they all talk about, oh, it's the minutes. I'm like, well, utilise your minutes. Joe Willock yesterday, nothing for me, just ran around, just being, you know, trying to make a nuisance of himself, and it didn't come off. I mean, okay, the guy's an idiot, but Guendouzi got pelters for that. He's just up there running around. Do you know what I mean? it's people and players that are just consistently letting you down when you're expecting them to do something. And do you know what? The big positives that I can say is that I thought when we did go down to 10 men, normally back in years gone by, we would crumble from a moment like that. And at least we were somewhat resilient. It was as if, like, do you know what? As I was watching it, it seemed like, and people were saying the gaps between defence, midfield, and attack, they were more chasms than gaps, mate. There were times yesterday where just before we did the pod, like you said, Leeds are bringing it up, and then they're cutting it to the edge of the box, and I'm just like, where are you, Ceballos? And like, what? Why is that? Why is that distance for them to just completely bomb? It was like I said, a chasm, a motorway of like space between all the departments of the team. And I thought after that red card, it seemed as if Xhaka more so than Ceballos somewhat waked up, and he sort of come into a leader mode. And okay, people are chastising him for after the game, and I can see where they're coming from. But then also at the same time, I'm also like, Xhaka understands, because this guy's been sent off countless times himself, and he probably was shoving Tierney away with some sort of like, people have said it's petulant, and he's being somewhat of an aggressor towards Tierney. And that's why I got the Scotland shirt on, because I'm respecting the Tierney, I'm repping the Tierney today. But I think he was doing it because he was like, you're going to get sent off as well, and you're pivotal. So just get. I mean, was it Steve Round in the end had to come and collect it?
Yeah, I think it might have been a goalkeeping coach. You know, I think it might have been a goalkeeping coach whose name completely has gone from my head. But I think it might have been a goalkeeping coach that eventually pulled Tierney away.
Cooper from Leeds as well, who's Scottish. He was telling him to like.
Yeah, and we'll get to the incident as to why Tierney was so upset. Obviously, it's a Pepe red card, and and we know how close Tierney is to Pepe as well. So when I watched it, I tweeted about that, and I was actually quite happy with his reaction in a way. It's something I think we lack. He obviously no problem with Xhaka sort of taking on that captain's role, and I don't know, yeah, you're probably right. It's being blown out of proportion where his arm was around the opposite player and things like that. I don't know really. I don't necessarily read in too much to that, but and we're probably thankful for, because what we don't need right now is to lose one of the few players that maybe we can rely on in someone like Kieran Tierney. Do you know what I mean? But I think you're right. Let's start with each point and just break it down a little bit, because we aren't going to have many positives on this podcast, so we might as well go through them a little bit. So the back four, like you said, we've been calling for it, and I felt we'd kind of moved towards it more so than ever in the last few games, but certainly not against Villa, but that was probably largely to do with the amount of defending that we had to do. But this really indicated a back four, because there was a distinct midfield three, and although initially we were like, someone's dropping back into the back line, it never really felt like that happened, even though there were so many gaps defensively, and we gave away chance after chance from really sort of 20th minute onwards, where they started to sort of create a lot down our right hand side. But it was a positive to see that I didn't think we were going to. After El Neni got tested positive for COVID, and then Partey's injury was serious enough to keep him out, I just thought, hold on, you've got two midfielders here that have only worked in a back five for you, or at the very least they've only worked efficiently. Yeah. So for me, the whole lineup, I found it so weird, because I think I spoke to you boys on the tweet, and I might have said something different 2 weeks ago. I said, but almost I felt he was being forced from personnel changes, forced upon him to staying into a back five for this game. And in fact, I was even in my head wanting him to stay into a back five because of the fact that Xhaka
I predicted the back five.
Yeah, and so it was really weird to go, oh, he's definitely switched it. Encouraged by it, but so bewildered by this being the moment to do it out of all the 8 games. Like, I go back to the fact that it had to be really, to make that change, it had to be the Fulham game. And the reason I go back to that was because our easiest 2 games on paper were Fulham and West Ham, and those were our first 2 games. And we had 10 days before it and the Community Shield to go, this is the time to transition here. And even though we beat Fulham and we beat West Ham, you could see already against West Ham the massive limitations of the back 5 setup, in terms of dominating the ball, etc. And I felt, certainly in hindsight, that was the moment to do it, not 2 days practice after a 2-week break. Of it, because I don't think we've been working on this formation that much, or it certainly doesn't look like it. But then argument to say, what have we been working on? But but I was encouraged. But obviously, Luis had a baby, he wasn't in the squad. So there's an argument to say, would he have come in for the back 4? But maybe not in a back 4. No. Probably not. I don't think. Right. Yeah, so, but the weird thing was for me is that we know Xhaka and Ceballos don't have that recovery speed, and we saw that a lot in terms of the chance creation from Leeds, and I just felt it was a really weird moment to switch to the back 4. The other encouraging thing that you mentioned as well was the fact that he actually tried playing a number 10. Or, to a certain degree, a player in that position. You can argue whether it's a traditional one or not. The concern there for me, James, obviously Willock got the nod, and it's not that he didn't deserve the nod because he's been really good in midweek. But obviously, like you said, like everyone, but I think his pass accuracy, other than Aubameyang, was the worst. It was like 60%, and he was pretty non-existent in the game, quite clumsy on the ball. Things we've accused Willock of the past. Now, but a lot of these things, I do feel he has to move towards in order to get this team functioning as a forward-thinking team again. So, what are our options in that position, do you think? Because, listen, we could go to Ozil, but it'd be a whole other conversation. Yeah. So we know it's not an option. It will at least till January, so we can discuss it again in January if you want. But the fact that he considered that a position, right? We saw against Leicester, he played 3 central midfielders, and they were all kind of redundant, and Partey got kind of left out of it. At the very least in this one, it was distinct that he had Xhaka and Ceballos and he had Willock as that front forward-thinking, attacking midfielder. Concern there for me is that Willock, although he's got really good attributes that we lack, like running into the box lake and having this sort of goal threat, in terms of on the ball for a number 10, which is the traditional number 10 is kind of going away from things nowadays anyway, right? David Silva no longer here, Mesut Ozil no longer really around, other clubs at the top, do they have one?
De Bruyne is having his worst season I've seen.
And you'd argue that De Bruyne is this more sort of modern day number 10 that really does contribute to both sides of the game a lot more than maybe those two would. So what are our options there? Because I see 3. I was talking a lot with my dad about this earlier, and I see a lot of options. I genuinely don't really see Willock as one. The reason I don't is because I don't think he's very good on the ball, and I think you have to be technically good on the ball. So the argument is, for me, the options there would have to be someone like Willian. No, it's not a great option. No, it's a great option. I don't necessarily, but when we see how bad he is out wide, and we also see that Arteta's basically going to play him no matter what.
That was another thing I wanted to get into. But
yeah, we're going to go real into it. We'll come back to it because that's where the negatives hit. Smith Rowe, obviously, but can he stay fit? But I do really think attribute-wise, he's probably the best option we've got. But obviously, experience-wise and everything, it's a long shot at this point. Yeah. And then one that you won't like, but one that I do think is possibly an option, but I don't really want to do it, is Danny Ceballos. But I know you and I agree with you that I believe he's better in a deeper role.
Yeah, he is.
And but we do see, James, that in terms of his technical attributes and eye for a pass, I think he is the best player in terms of experienced players and players that are amongst the first team that we have to do that role. He doesn't really have the legs for it, but if you're at home against 2 banks of 4, I wouldn't be against it, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I don't know, what do you think?
That I agree with you, even though I mean, not just because he obviously wears number 8, but I think he's better as a centre mid than I do as a cam. However, going off what you say, and just from when I've watched him and everything else, and I mean, the statistics are all there as well. So even if you want to go from it from a statistical point of view, yeah, you're 100% correct. The guy wins the ball high up better than anybody else in our team, I think. And I mean, obviously Partey's injured at the moment, so obviously he will start doing that when he's in, because that's that guy's bread and butter. You know, that's what he does. That's his food and drink, pretty much. But currently, with the players at our disposal, yeah, Ceballos is obviously the best one to do that job, and also as well, you know, the reason.
Sorry, four tackles, 2 interceptions. No one had more than 1 tackle other than him. So just backing up your point. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Thank you. So looking at that, obviously he is that option at Cam, but you know, we buy Willian because, and you know, this is where I do my air quotes, he can unlock the door. He doesn't even get up to the door. Do you know, the guy, obviously, we'll dig more into it later on, but I hope so anyway, because there's a lot to be said about him. But at least with Danny Ceballos yesterday, you're talking about earlier about the chances in the first half. It's just come back to me. He had that one that he levered from long range, not the free kick, which was awful. I mean, we'll get into free kicks later on, I guess, as well. But he had that one from range, didn't he? And okay, it weren't the best chance, but that all come from him winning it high and his little movement and then a little sidestep and do you know what I mean? At least he's got the audacity to try something like that, and everything else. I mean, obviously we're being restricted to shots that we're having, and they do somewhat come across as pop shots, but sometimes you need that. I mean, it was pouring down the rain down there, wasn't it? It was a wet surface, so at least he had the audacity to try something like that. But no, I mean, for me, I keep going on about how I want to see Saka at the 10, and people are like, no, he's a wide player, and I just want to see it once, just so I can, because I think he's a brilliant option at 10. But if not, then I think now from what I've seen, I'm looking at it going, okay, give me Emil Smith Rowe, because if not Smith Rowe, then come January, and I don't even want to mention his name because he's irrelevant, but unless you're going out and buying a top tier, and I'm talking top tier,
Salzburg Lag or someone like that. Yeah.
Not someone, not, you know. And I like these players, but you know, not like the likes of a Cantwell or a Buendia from Norwich or whatever. I'm talking an upper echelon, number 10 creative midfield type player. Then he's got to go. You know, he talks about his non-negotiables all the time. He's going to have to. And I mean, it was the comments as well of, oh, you know, I really like the player and the player's working. I just wish I could pick him. I'm like, but you've made that choice.
Yeah, the midweek comments on Ozil were very odd. Went against a lot of stuff.
Whether the club's told him or not, like, no, there's no way. So I'm like, and I hate saying it, I really hate saying it, but I'm like, you've chosen to be a corporate pawn for a management team that want to ostracise this player into leaving because we overpaid him and gave him a contract that's stupid. I'm sorry, for me, Arteta on that has been, and especially with those comments, because I'm like, well, no, hang on a sec. Why don't you stand up for yourself and say, no, I need this player, or I want this. I mean, the he still created the most chances for him, and he hasn't played him since March, wasn't it?
And the thing is with this is, I really hope that's not the case, and I don't think maybe we will know eventually what the case. I'm sure Ozil will come out of it at some point, but again, it will come from his side, so you do need to hear both sides. But the frustration here,
I think it's one of the most obvious things in football, Jack.
Yeah, but the frustration here, James, is whether you want Ozil back in or not, and I'm not. I'm at this point, I'm quite understanding of both opinions. He had to have a solution, and the solution cannot be like, whether you like Willock or not, it cannot be he's done all right in a couple of games, so I'm going to put him in there. It can't be that. That's Emery. That's what Emery failed at, because he started doing things like Torreira up there and you know, throwing Willock up there, but having no understanding of how to use that player. That player, when you play him, you should have the most touches of the ball. Joe Willock's got the least touch of the ball, so we're not filtering anything through him. The plan isn't there. The style and the philosophy isn't there to use that player.
I don't want to be overly harsh as well, but I mean, this is mould and Dundalk.
Yeah, and then it's...
I'm like, yes, it's a good performance, and yes, you want to push him through. But I'm like, he's not playing against mould and Dundalk now. This is Leeds. This is Premier League. This is the if you want, arguably the most high intensity team in our league, regardless of how they've been promoted, just promoted or not. They are the most, I would say, well drilled team, because he's done what, a 2-year apprenticeship of not getting out of that division. The players haven't changed much, so every single, apart from some of the new ones that they've purchased, every single person to a man knows what their job is in that league squad. And I'm like, you're not, do you know what I mean? You're not going to get half an hour on the ball, whatever that he thinks that he needs. And I mean, okay, we're talking about Ceballos as well. Ceballos, to begin with, some of his passes were wayward. It was just, but then we said it in the WhatsApp group, for every wayward pass he's making, at least he's the one who looks switched on and engaged here to actually try and
never hides.
Never hides. Get something going.
Yeah, and we used to make this case for Guendouzi early doors, where we were saying he's giving it away, he's doing silly things, but he never hides from it. But I think this was one of Ceballos' most wayward in terms of pass possession. But in terms of character, in terms of players that want to be on the ball and try to create something, he was the only one for me that I was watching going, I'm really trying to see from him that he wants to move the ball forward, he wants to play that ball early forward, and he wants to create, and he wants to advance to win the ball high up, etc. I think no matter who we've got, there's very little positives in this team, but I think I've struggled to see how he cannot be one of the must-start players in the team because of his technical quality on the ball. Like, our quality has gone so far down since the days of Cesc Fabregas, Santi Cazorla, Thomas Rosicky, Jack Wilshere. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some people even argue like the likes of a Wobie would be technically better. But maybe that's going a little bit too far. But in truth, Dani Ceballos is our technical quality player. 100%. He's dropped a lot level down, but this team is lacking so much in the ability to sort of possess the ball and retain it that you just have to start. But I agree with you on Saka. I didn't mention Saka as a number 10. I do feel he has so many good attributes. The one attribute that annoys me every now and then with Saka is his first touch every now and then. But I think away from home, because of his legs that he's got, I think number 10 would be a brilliant role for him to be able to break and transition. At home, when teams are sitting deep, I just wonder if we're feeding into his best attributes in terms of using the space. But I think it definitely should be considered an option. But again, it's so frustrating that we're playing so badly since the start of the season, irrespective of result. And this is the first real time we've had the opportunity to say, well, at least he's tried someone there. Do you know what I mean? And that is what's really frustrating, James. Let's get into the negatives. I mean, Auba.
I was going to say, just quick, another positive. I'll throw it out there because obviously people know my opinion. I've got to big up Leno for yesterday.
Oh yes, especially that top corner one, second half. Brilliant.
I've got to throw it out there and say the guy was, he was top. At the level where I'm like, the season before, obviously when we had the previous regime where it was literally this guy is saving us points. It seemed yesterday that him and the post were man of the match when they
the post was fantastic. I don't know how the goal stayed up. I thought they were going to come in, call a time out and go, it was just switch the goal out because he's having a bit of work. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't know how it stayed standing. I don't know. Four times they hit the post. I've got to big him up though because I do. No, I do dig the guy out a lot. Yeah, it's just so frustrating to have to talk about a top performance again from our goalkeeper, and that's nothing against Bernardo. It's more against the way the team plays. But again, that is another positive. And just to touch on another one was Aubameyang central. Though we did say for the last 2 weeks, as we knew that it wasn't as easy as that. Solving the problem was no way near as easy as moving Aubameyang central. And another really odd thing for me was I always felt that if he ever moved to a midfield three where a 10 was there, that you'd have to play Laka, because what my theory was and this was the way Wenger used to use Laka, was Laka is not a guy that needs to drop into the number 10 role, because he's not. He's an in and around the box player, and he's quite good at that. He doesn't have the legs to do two roles, clearly. So in a way, and no one, I probably was in the minority here, I was kind of like, I bet Laka sitting there going, I wouldn't mind being an actual striker in this game, and that was kind of interesting. And we'll get back to that. But it clearly didn't work Aubameyang central, and it wasn't because necessarily he was central. It was too many other things going on. In fact, we couldn't get the ball to him, and clearly he's not. Arteta's not going to be convinced by that performance, but he has to look at more than that, surely, and understand that that this is something that really could work if a lot of other things happen to click in the team. But James, I don't want to get to the point where I'm questioning the manager. Well, I do. We have to, I think, in terms of what we're seeing. I was
going to say you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to, and
the evidence is piling.
Yeah, the evidence is piling, and there's a lot. I mean, I sent out a tweet saying, all the evidence is saying that we should be really worried at this point, and I think that's true. And while I'm not going to be a person that's going to be like, it's time to rethink things managerial wise, I think I do still think, in my personal opinion, this is something that needs to be really hard focused, evaluated at the end of the season, really seriously, to be honest. And at this point, although I do think a lot of it maybe is the writings on the wall in terms of the league, I do think we might have to play this one out, because we're never going to be a Chelsea. We're never going to be that team that changes their manager every year. We don't have the funds to do it, for starters. We don't have the ability to pull in the top manager. We pay Arteta less than Brendan Rodgers, I believe, or the same amount. We don't have that ability to do that. So we're not going to act like we're that sort of team. And I do support Arteta, and I do think winning the FA Cup has bought him some time. And I do think, in a sense, rightly. But when he talks about non-negotiables, I cannot believe. Let's just start with the Willian issue. I cannot believe, and this isn't. Let's just eradicate the pretty poor performances on the pitch from Willian since the start of the season, bar the Fulham game. You cannot tell me that a player that says a stupid word to a play like Guendouzi did against Brighton and then never sees the pitch again, Ozil, for whatever he did, which I'm sure was more than what we know of, never sees the pitch again. And then Willian goes on a trip during a 2-week pandemic break for only international players that are playing with their international team without telling Mikel Arteta. It's in... Afterwards claimed it was a business relations trip, which is just absolute nonsense in a worldwide pandemic. There's not even I don't even want to know the logical reason.
I said it, mate. The only thing I saw was him in Salt Bay.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you going into business with Salt Bay? Have you got a steakhouse or something in Dubai? I don't know.
Absolutely right. And whatever it is, is it really calls for you having to pick up everything and go? And I could not. He should never have been in the squad, James, let alone a team.
No,
and then when he got pulled at half time, I thought, well, at least he's gone. If you were poor, I gave you another chance, and I've whipped you. He whipped him off because of an injury. So he didn't even have a bottle to take him off because of a poor performance again. And Jay, I mean, this is where it becomes hypocritical. A lot of the comments start to go in one ear and out the other for me, because I believe in Arteta a lot, but I'm like, you're not being fair here to the way you've treated other players and the way you're treating this one. Yeah. What do you think is reason? Why is he so? Obviously, it's his signing, so that might be one thing. But how has he not dropped Willian based on performances, let alone this debacle?
Do you know what? For me, and I don't, I'm not a conspiracy theorist anyway. I know I sit here with a big microphone and I've got big opinions, but I'm hardly Alex Jones, mate.
Alex Jones, gosh. Don't go political. We're going to go political.
I promise you, I won't. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm sorry, but it's got to be Edu in his ear saying that his mate Kia wants the money for the minutes. For me, it's no other. There's nothing else than it's got to be something in deal with between them all or anything else like that. Like there's got to be a clause in there that he has to play a certain amount of minutes per this free transfer.
No, surely. It'd be awful if that's true, wouldn't it?
But there's nothing. There is nothing else that justifies to me. Like, I don't think Arteta's stupid. Arrogant, yeah, but I don't think he's stupid. And I'm like, you're watching the same game I'm watching, if not with a better brain than what I'm watching it with. You know, that's obvious. And how can he justifiably keep picking him? I mean, okay, yesterday he was playing on the left when he's predominantly played for us on the right.
And he is supposed to be better on the right, and I think
a
lot indicates to that, to be honest.
Yeah. But regardless, I was googling like mad yesterday, mate, just out of sheer curiosity of how has this happened? Because I'm like, I thought, regardless of if you do a double negative, so that's you go there, test negative, you come back, test negative. I'm like, I thought from the UAE, it's 14 days regardless. Well, and then I got all this stuff if you were invited as a guest by someone. So I'm like, someone over there that's quite predominant in the UAE has signed a script for him and everything. Like there's been some way, but it's like you said, he goes on about these non-negotiables and, you know, the bad apples or this, that and the other. And regardless of, and I don't know if Willian is a big character in that dressing room, because I know we lack a lot of them. I mean, for all that we say about Mesut Ozil, the guy's still got a huge pull with them players and rapport with them players. Guendouzi, for all of his trouble, had a huge pull and rapport with some of them players. And I look at it and I think to myself, what have you done justifiably to have a holiday? You can't call it a business trip. It's a holiday. What have you done to justify having a holiday in the first place? And then second to that, you've gone against the club's wish. Do you know what I mean? You've done this off your own back. Like, I don't know if maybe it's just his own plane or something or other. Like,
the COVID thing doesn't really make any sense across the board when it comes to these breaks, really, because I mean, how big is this bubble, by the way? I mean, you're in your bubble, and what's it mean anymore? Because you got the players going, you know, left, right, and centre on international breaks, and the rule is the general public rule is if you're in direct contact with someone that tests positive for COVID-19, you isolate 14 days or possibly 10 days, but it's 14 days. I do contact tracing as part of my job. It's 14 days, so that doesn't happen with any players, because let's be honest, I mean, as soon as a player tests positive and with their team, you know, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, whether it's Mohamed El-Neni, whoever's been amongst those players should be isolating as well. Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, and that doesn't happen. And the argument for football, I believe, is because of the amount of testing they do, which actually again goes against pretty much everything because of the incubation period of the virus. That's why the 14-day period is there. So testing negative wouldn't make a difference anyway. So if you were right next to Mohamed El-Neni and you tested negative, it wouldn't clear you. It would just say, well, you've not got it at this point in time, but you still have to follow the isolation period. So footballers, like other sportsmen, are since the return, are clear of that rule that's been across almost worldwide to the general public. Whether that's right or wrong, I mean, I can understand that games just wouldn't go on if that was to be the case, so I can kind of see why. But in terms of the logistics of the virus and what's actually recommended by the CDC, that is completely against the rules. But again, at the very least, stay. You know, you are not being advised by anybody for any other than emergent or absolutely necessary, which international football seems to fall under, travel. This guy's just swanned off to Dubai. I don't care what business. And he didn't tell them. And it's unbelievable. And I out of everything that Mikel Arteta has done good and done bad, I was so upset to see Willian in the squad, let alone the team. My jaw dropped when I saw him in the team. I went, I cannot believe he started him for this game. And it was nothing to do with football. Even though, you know, a lot of us said, you got to drop him for this game, footballing wise, etc. I could not believe after everything that happened in those 2 weeks. And again, we don't know the specifics, but we don't need to know them. It is unbelievable. That is really. So, here we go. We're on the negatives, but let's talk a little bit about the first half. We didn't create much, James. Aubameyang's half chance and Ceballos' whacked one from the high ball that he won, the best. What were your thoughts overall in the first half, mate? I thought it got worse as it went on.
Yeah. You've answered it again as usual. No. That's it. I can't have no more than that. And people go on about this Aubameyang chance. I'm sorry, but I've watched that again and again and again. I'm like, you've got to slide Pepe in. He has to. Pepe's free. Pepe is free.
Pepe's free inside him, is he?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly where Pepe was, but okay.
I'm like, when I was watching it live, I gave it like, Aubameyang unlucky. And then when I've watched it again, when I've done the highlights and everything to jot some stuff down, I'm like, that's piss poor. I'm like, you've got to slide him in. You've got to slide him in.
And I know it's a half chance, but even if he's not, got to do better with it than that, isn't he? It's no way near the target. It's way wide.
It's not a good angle, and to be fair, the ball from Bellerin isn't the best. He's made something out of arguably a terrible ball from Bellerin. Who, again, people slate Bellerin so much, and they're like, why ain't Ainsley Maitland? I'm like, Ainsley Maitland-Niles could not play right back in a 4. Just stop asking for it. Stop clamouring for it. He cannot do that in a back 4.
The issue though is why? I mean, we're talking about why are you keeping him then? Why are you keeping him? Do you know what I mean? I agree with you. I agree with you. But why the heck have you sold our best goalkeeper and for 20 mil when you could have got the same for a player you don't even want to use?
Yeah, I know. That's another question that needs to be thrown aside. But no, I mean, and you saw it second half. Because people say to me, all you do is big up Bellerin. And I'm like, that chance that's in the second half, no other fullback at the club that plays on the right-hand side produces that. And I said, that's why he's still here, and that's why he gets picked every week, because he can create that burst and that one chance and one opportunity that, this is it. We keep saying it every single time, Jack. This team needs to be clinical, because we create so less. I mean, we get to half time and I'm like, but I never
13 shots to 5 they had in the third.
I never thought Leeds were going to score. And I knew from just ingrained of how long I've watched Arsenal for a prolonged period of time, especially Arsenal currently, because there's so little else to do, that watching football is the best solace that we can have. And I'm an obsessive anyway. But I knew that we will get one chance. I knew we would get one chance in the second half, and especially when they were pampering us and everything else. And I was just like, we're going to steal this 1-0, or we're going to get an opportunity to steal this 1-0. And yeah, I mean, there's the shout as well for the penalty, which, okay, if those rules hadn't changed, that's a pen. But at the same time, I'm like, the rules
at the start of the season that gets given, they reviewed the rule, and now it doesn't.
Shoots as handballs now. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't. From the original, the way the rule should be, where it should have, back in the old days, where it was, if it's ball to hand, it's not a handball. That's not a handball. But when you've seen everything you've seen so far, you cannot change rules 6-7 games into the season, I would argue, unless it's really big, and that gets given first few weeks.
It's Arsenal as well. I mean, they said on the commentary on Sky, they were like, "Oh yeah, VAR's checked it." I'm like, what, in that short space and that little minute peck of time? And I'm like, he ain't going to have a look himself or anything. And
the lack of appeal, though. I mean, I'm sure we appealed slightly for it, but we should be running through the ref's door with that. I mean, it's the lack of appeal from the players. You've got to, when you're creating as little, it's like I'd be running to the ref going, hit his elbow. It's not in a natural position. You need to check that and check it again. And so again, it's and that needs to come from Aubameyang. He's the one that took a shot. He's the captain. So I just think let's just before we move on from the first half, lots came down our right hand side. side, those 13 shots, a lot of them came from them hitting the byline on our right-hand side, their left, and cutting it back to whether it was Rafinha or Bamford, who just dropped off. Dropped off.
I don't know what's happening with Holding at the moment, mate. This is a guy who I'm normally...
You talk about Bellerin, but that right-hand side defensively, and Pepe, Bellerin was going bloody murder at him. But it's a real concern defensively, I think, that right-hand side. I mean, our left-hand side is our strongest, maybe in both directions.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a real concern.
There were times where, and it's hard to remember who all the players are, because all the Leeds players have that top-knot man bun, don't they? They all, I know I can't talk, but they all sort of have this hairstyle all together. And I'm just literally like, Holden, are you going to engage, or are you just going to do the same as what you did against Villa?
Passive, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, there's no emphasis on him to... And I'm not saying, like, let's completely crunch the guy and all of this. But I'm like, you've got to give a bit more than just... I mean, he does the sort of, where he's standing there and all that. But I'm like, there's no emphasis to win that ball back. And part of me's like, why are you reducing them to crosses and everything? Because when there was a time in the first half, that guy's emphasis is on punching. And when he does punch it, he don't punch it properly. He's not punching the ball like Edwin van der Sar used to, where sometimes he can punch the ball and it's like a lofted through ball to the... I'm like, do you know what I mean? And then for as much as I think Gabriel is amazing as well, there's one in the first half and one in the second half. I'm like, why are you trying to clear it with the tip of your knob? He's sort of doing all this, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're the one who I'm thinking is the main man here.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it was one of Gabriel's better games as such either, but again, the frustration is we're going to start to even make our positive bright sparks and the players that have been really good for us this season start to look ordinary just because the whole team is dysfunctional. You know what I mean? And I'm like you. I am concerned about that right side, and in a lot of aspects, I would prefer. I said in the last podcast, I don't think we've got an ideal right centre-back option, which is incredible considering we've got about 12 on the books. But I don't think we do, and I think it's really 50-50 whether you play Holding or Luis. Luis, I like in the sense that you're just going to control the ball a little bit more from that deeper position. But it's a real concern. There was a lot of arguments about Pepe's ability to work, and I think it's just night and day what we're seeing from Pepe since the end of last season to this point now. He looks lost. But again, he was. It's not on when you see we moan about Willian for it, so we can't not moan about Pepe for him. He's strolling around when he loses the ball and not supporting his right fullback who really needed his support. It was so obvious in that first half that he needed his support, and for Pepe just to tuck in and chase back and support him as much as you could because they were flying down that left wing. I think it is Alioski who was flying down that left wing mostly. But just flying. And what was frustrating was to see always they were able to pick out a man in a box. And when we fly down the wing, which is rare, it's so hard to find players that are even there and finding space or making runs. We just seem to we seem to be perfectly hidden in these games. It's really frustrating. But I thought, but then obviously after the second half starts, we have the incident. It's really stupid, James, isn't it?
Especially now with all the cameras that are on it. I don't know what part of him thought he could do that and get away with it. I knew instantly. I was just like, well, you're off. You're off.
Yeah, well, you said it because I hadn't seen it. Said it instantly, and I knew as soon as I saw it as well. You know that, don't you? You know that as a schoolboy playing, you don't put your head to someone.
Yeah, I mean the guy. He's a complete and utter idiot, and it's not acceptable. But you could tell this guy is clearly frustrated with his situation. So, and I don't know. I don't believe he is on social media. I don't believe he is. However, the guy is getting, torrid of abuse from his own fans, even though they're not there, torrid of abuse from opposition fans going about how much money we've wasted, what a waste of money is, how rubbish he is. And you've got other people who, okay, I know in the heat of the moment, but like, I don't ever want to see him play for Arsenal again. He's a joke. And I'm like, compared to at the same time last year, roughly same sort of time last year, the incident with Granit Xhaka compared to what Pepe done yesterday, it's uncomparable. I'm like, in a split minute, where he's been wound up, he's reacted. He's overreacted. He has overreacted, Pepe. But I'm like, compared to what happened last year, I'm like, don't all this. I never want to see him again. And everything. He's rightfully got to have some time out. And for me, Arteta yesterday, and I said it to you earlier, I'm like, he over-relied on blaming Pepe for me. And I think that's because Pepe sort of digged in at the week before. And I think it's a bit tit for tat. You know, he was saying, I'm not getting the minutes, I'm not getting played. I was arguably the man of the match in the cup final, if you want to really look at it, and yet I'm not getting. And for me, I'm like, especially where Arteta's concerned, for 51 minutes, you did nothing. Your team created nothing. So you can't. Okay, yes, he was an idiot, and yes, he did let your team down and everything else. However, it doesn't negate the fact that for 51 minutes against a team that in their last two conceded 8, you did nothing. Your team that you put out there, whatever you put them out there, whatever instruction you put out, do you know what I mean? The team's a reflection of the manager. And I'm just like, whatever it is that you're saying and whatever, how well they worked and bought into it last year when you come in, they're not doing the same now. And I don't want to start saying that players are down in tools. But I mean, since the guys come in, we have the most red cards in the league. And we're 5 now since Arteta's been the manager. And we were used to saying, I wish we had someone that would kick somebody because we're so soft. But now it's going back to its ill discipline again. And I mean, the guy baited him. He knew he was pulling him all game and, like slapping his hands and everything when they're trying to run past and stuff. And he saw the redness, he overreacted. And for me, I'm like, he's got a good. I would be surprised if we saw Pepe any time before Christmas / the New Year now. I think he's going to be put away, naughty step type for at least a good amount of games. I mean, he can play Thursday, and me personally, I would throw him out there.
Because, would you?
Yeah, because I'm like, I think the guy needs an arm around him, and he needs his confidence, and it's just like, right, that was. I would be going. That was Sunday. This is now Thursday. And because
he does need an arm around him. I'd argue it should have happened before this point.
The options out wide, when you consider that Saka's going to be injured and we don't know how long for. So that's another one on the right-hand side you lose. Willian is supposedly injured and we don't know how long for. And he said that's muscular. So that's, you know more than me.
Yeah, with Willian, I was trying to see if is it muscular or is it probably too many steaks in Dubai.
But Nelson for me, I'm sorry, I keep saying I want to see it from this guy, and I want to see it in big, in consistent. He was brilliant against Liverpool in the league, but a professional footballer that can't even beat his first man from a court. I mean, what's this set piece coach done since we've got him, Jack? Wasted every single one.
I know it's not about positional, is it? It's just can we just focus on the person taking the set piece? Don't worry about anything in the box. Just focus on, can that person beat the first man? And if he can't, why is he signing a professional football contract? And it's not just Nelson, to be fair. I mean, it was bad, but you see Pepe, Willian. I mean, we're seeing it from all of them. They're just awful set pieces. Can't even hit it to an area. Do you know what I mean? If you can't pick out a man, pick out an area. Do you know what I mean? The set pieces is something you practice as kids over and over and over again. This is something that professional footballers, it should be a delivery every time. You shouldn't be hitting that first man ever. It's just shocking. Our set piece is shocking. But
I mean, for me now. It seems like whether we want to or not, Nelson may have to start in the league. So he's not going to be an option for me on Thursday. So I guess it's either you put Nelson in or you put Pepe in, and I think maybe Nelson might get the 2 games, or he'll get at least 50 to 60 minutes on Thursday.
Like I've said before, and brother's not a big fan of him either, but I quite like Nelson in the sense that again, I don't
there's talent in there.
He doesn't hide. Again, another player wants to be on the ball, wants a lot of touches, wants the ball. I also think positionally he's actually better than Pepe and Willian on the right side. I think he'll follow an instruction from a coach far better than either of what I'm seeing from those two. And I'm like, hey, at this point, again, I hope that guy is sitting there going, I've got an opening here because these two are not doing it.
Well, this is it.
He has to see it like that because he really does.
Players getting these opportunities, like, okay, I tore Willock to smithereens earlier to an extent, but Pepe again as well. I'm like, you as well, mate. You know, you can't hold your head up. You're begging for time. You're begging for minutes, and you go get a silly red card. Yeah, the frustration, like you said, is Arteta. I think he laid too much into the comments as well. Where were these comments? I'm not just picking them out because I'm not necessarily his biggest fan, but where were these comments when Mustafi caused Luis to have a red card away against Chelsea? Where were these comments when Eddie Nketiah made the foul when we should have been walking away with a 2 or 3-0 win against Leicester and we end up drawing 1-1? Where were those comments then? Obviously, this is an incident maybe a little bit worse individually, but again, they had 25 shots, the most any side has had without scoring since Man City 26 against Southampton in July. I mean, we had 33% of the possession. This was all going on before the Pepe red card. So, you know, it wasn't a game changer. In fact, there's an argument to say although we conceded just as many chances when he went off, we actually were better going forward when he went off. Probably the large point of that is the fact that Saka came on, and Saka's our only real attacking outlet that's consistent at the moment in terms of, being able to create. Like we said earlier, mate, they woke up. Yeah. That chasm that I talked about earlier wasn't there then. Yeah. I think Granit Xhaka, for all of his flaws and everything else that he clearly has, he was doing the role that Aubameyang should be doing with that armband on. He was because I watch without the crowd noise on. Yes. Other than Arteta barking out everything all the time, because I think that's another thing. I think some of these players, and there was a time in the second half when we had that free kick near the end, and Granit Xhaka wanted to play it early. And he went, and Xhaka turned around to him and went, what? Like he was like he was arguing with Arteta. And Arteta went long, and he went, and he pinged it to Maitland-Niles and everything. But he didn't want to play that ball. He wanted to play that quickly. Because I don't know if he's over. I said that weeks ago he's overcomplicating things, or he's not allowing. Yeah, he's not allowing individual sort of moments and creativity to happen. I think. He's somewhat stifling it a little bit. And especially, like you said, we keep going back into the comments. He keeps talking about, the reaction of when it's adverse and everything. I'm like, is this squad more fractured than we actually thought it was? Because he talks about the cohesion and the togetherness and everything. And I'm like, what is really going on there then? Because there's fights in. I mean, we ain't even mentioned Ceballos when he come on. What's your thoughts on that? Well, he didn't look like he'd been chinned, did he? So clearly. Yeah, I know. It was interesting with the old Ornstein thing. He comes out faking, but Arteta alluding to something going on. Yeah. But what's also interesting, I don't mind it. I mean, when it used to happen amongst the Invincibles, I don't know if people remember, Lauren and Vieira having a complete tear up on a bus. On the way home for stuff, and you just laughed it off because you were so good. Obviously now every little thing
amongst the squad, it indicates disharmony, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to my dad because obviously he's had the experience of when he was working in football and everything else. He was at Liverpool, he was at Melwood and stuff. And my dad went, that happens about 8 or 9 times a session, James.
Yeah. 9. The interesting thing is it's Ceballos again after the Eddie one. Yeah. Probably he has that feisty kind of character and nature. That's the only thing I'd say, but I'm not bothered by it. It doesn't bother me.
No. I mean, I think the majority of it is that, like you said, he doesn't want to hide, and he's very, very emotionally involved. I mean, look at the end of the cup final when he jumps and Arteta lifts him. The guy cares a lot, and for a guy that's on loan,
he cares a lot.
I mean, look at him when he come back. We were all like, oh God, he's gone now. He ain't going to come back. And he's tweeting about Arsenal and everything else. And then the club did the really cool thing with all the emojis.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm like, the guy really, really cares. And I think that's the emotions just get, like we said about Pepe, it just, maybe someone did fly into him a bit hard, and that's what blew it. Because there was conflicting stories of it was someone went in on him. It wasn't Luiz, but someone went in on him, and then he overreacted, and it was a younger player. And apparently David Luiz is really protected. I mean, they all love him. I mean, look at Saka whenever he speaks. He talks about how David Luiz, he loves having David Luiz there, loves having. So I don't know if he's sort of like, these are my babies or whatever. You don't touch him. He's got that motherhoody type thing with him. And I don't know. I'm like, but I don't think it's as big as what people are making it out to be. But I do think there is something there where, and I don't want to say they're down in tools, but they definitely are not as fully interesting and committed to this cause than what they were last season.
Yeah, and the frustration. I mean, we talked just watching the great save from Leno from I forget the player's name from the shot. Was it
Dallas?
From Dallas, yeah. Great save. That was probably a pick of a bunch, to be honest. But yeah, going back to that in terms of buying, when we spoke on the last pod about the fact that he's dropped Xhaka from the team quite a lot, and also dropped Luiz from the team quite a lot. Two big characters in the group. Then obviously removing Ozil from the whole group. In doing these things, you have to be really sure as a manager that you've got everyone on side, and it really felt like that towards the end of last season, and the comments that came out that he really had that. But I tweeted, halfway through the game that I think in terms of what I've seen this season, this is the worst football I've seen as an Arsenal fan, in terms of an attacking sense. And I've obviously got a lot of pelters for it, Emery, etc. But like I said, I do not remember a time under any manager, maybe in the latter era of George Graham and when Stuart Houston took over as interim coach for a little bit, maybe, but I was really early on in my supporting career, maybe. But to be honest, I don't really remember a time where it was so difficult to muster up an attacking chance for a team. And when people say, well, you've got to, it takes time, you've got to trust the process, look how long it took for Pep and Klopp, and they'll go back to this. But they all saw the signs consistently, whether it was the results or not. It was the performances that they saw in terms of the quality, and they saw things in those games that were really indicative of a manager that knows how to get the best out of a group. And we're not seeing that really in this season anyway.
No, the thing as well as that is, Jack, is people constantly are making these comparisons, and they're all saying about time. I'm like, as a club, we don't have the time. And this is more than just the manager. We do not have the time. The top 4/top 6 used to be a given. And like I keep going on about these chasms, it was huge. It is now, mate, if not a Rizzler paper, then I don't know what other thing I can use as a metaphor for it. But Guardiola, Klopp, their owners backed to the hill. And I know we've spent money. But it is nowhere near comparable. Frank Lampard, I'm going to go Project Youth. within 1 year. Screw that, 220 million.
He's not going to get that, right? He's not going to get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got the opportunity. We got the opportunity to give him that. This is not going to give him that.
This is what I say. You have to wait until the end of the season to truly evaluate the manager, because at the end of the season, we are going to have the biggest opportunity to change this squad since Wenger left. Yeah. There is no doubt about that. That all the indications are there. You got 700 grand that will just be gone off the books of a week before you talk about funds. And I know you're not getting in Europe might affect that, but really, what you've got on the books already is going to hugely affect. So you have to be sure at that point that you are giving that money to someone that you know is the right man to take the club forward. And that's why I think it needs to be evaluated at the end of the season. Unless, of course, and we're not far away from it, it's our worst start since 94, 95. It's the least amount of goals we've scored at this point, and since 87, I think. Albinho's he loves the negative data when it's there to be had.
You're saying it's negative data, but
it's just true. It's just true.
Yeah, the signs are all pointing that way. I mean, I hate to be a doom and gloom merchant, but by 6:30, 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 5th of December, our league season could be done, mate. It's finished.
Yeah,
and normally we get to at least February before everything.
It's getting earlier and earlier. Yeah. And I said quite negatively I don't know why I should mention it, just get pelters again, but quite negatively in our text group. I kind of predicted where we'd be at in January, and it wasn't very positive. And I predicted that we're just going to be buying into, as a fan, we're going to be buying into the hope of a cup run again. And in my argument right now,
we were going to finish 5th.
Yeah, they still mean, yeah.
We'd at least have a sniff. And I'm like, we're not even getting a sniff now.
Yeah, and I think that's where
we're not even in the chasing pack.
Yeah, and I think that's where at the end of the season there needs to be a hard look at it, an evaluation as to where. A lot of people say, well, he's not had a chance. We've not had a chance yet to truly adjust and change the squad. But if you're gonna hit, and I'm not a fan of Emery, and I like so many attributes of Arteta more than Unai Emery, and it's not just communication. There is a lot. I think he's done a lot defensively for the club. I think individuals he's progressed a lot more. Yeah. Big games, he's so much better. I really do believe that in the one-off big games. I think he's proven that he's so much better in terms of organisation and being able to create a plan. There's a lot of positives to take from what Arteta has done, but I also think he's got a better hand at the moment than what Emery had. He has the ability to have input on transfers that we know Unai Emery didn't really have the ability to have input. Right, he wanted Zaha, he got Pepe, etc. Right, he's got the likes of Partey and Gabriel in. Willian, clearly it seems, was at least partly his choice. So these are all indications that although he hasn't got everyone that he wants in, he's certainly got more than what the previous manager is, and some will say Arsenal fans generally aren't asking for the world, not the logical ones. We didn't. All we asked was a progression from last season in terms of the way we play, and obviously positionally, because in the league you've got to judge yourselves on where you finish. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I don't think many Arsenal fans would be sitting here if we got back into the Europa League via the league and had a real good go of it. I don't think many Arsenal fans would be sitting here saying, that was an absolute failure or anything like that. I think they'd say, well, we've done all right there. We've done okay. We've progressed a little bit. I don't think the jury might still be out for a lot of them, but I don't think anyone would be calling for anyone's head or anything like that. But again, like you said, it's the football. It's what you're seeing, the style, the approach. Those are bigger than the results business at the moment, for sure. And I think our performances overall this season so far in the league specifically have been pretty abysmal. Just to go back to a couple of things on the game, obviously went down to 10 men, and then they decided to just they were hitting the post, the bar, Bamford's header, one or two others. I think Rafinha maybe hit a post or bar, maybe it was. Really, we rode our luck. But one great chance that we did have, it would have been a snatch and grab big time, was from Bellerin, like you said. Saka has to hit it early, doesn't he?
I quite like that Melier in goal for Leeds anyway. I know they've conceded a lot, but I quite like the guy. And he made him. I mean, he's a big lad anyway, but he made himself massive there and closed it down quite well. But yeah, he's got to hit that first time. And a couple of weeks back, I think it was a Leicester game, I said Kieran Tierney should be screaming at Lacazette for robbing him of an assist. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Bellerin should have done this. Bellerin should be doing the same. If I was him, I'd be absolutely fuming at that. I mean, I hate having to, say anything negative about Saka because he is arguably our current best player at the moment. And
yeah. And it was so clear when he came on.
Yeah, when it gets to fine margins like that, then you have to pick it out because again, how many times every single week it sounds like we've got a cassette instead of we're actually talking to one another. This team has to be clinical because there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing.
And it's so much pressure, though, isn't it? I mean, not that they shouldn't be able to handle it, but it's so. If you're a striker, and I was, sort of, as a kid and playing throughout college and stuff. If you're getting volume, you shrug it off. And you go, no one's coming, don't worry about it, no one's coming, put that one away. But for the likes of Aubameyang and Saka to a certain degree, but Laka, Aubameyang, they are putting it all on one chance that they may or may not get, and that they should be able to handle that pressure. Top players can, and Aubameyang's shown up until this point, this season at least, that he can as well. But that shouldn't be the regular. That should not be what a top club like Arsenal is doing, and we should not be. And I don't care what you say. I think these players have a lot to answer for as well. But there is no way these players are as bad as what we're watching.
No,
which is why no way they're not. There's no way are we should we be creating as little as West Brom in the league? With all due respect to West Brom, no way. I'm not having it. So that's where you have to ask questions of the manager. You have to, because it's not even, we shouldn't be anywhere near that. We should be creating free flowing chances a lot. Odd game, sure. Every game we cannot create. Our XG for this game was 0.7. Theirs was 2.33, I think. And at half time, which was it was just as bad. So it's not 10 or 11 men. It's nothing to do with that. And that is our expected goals for the season. It's like that.
I mean the solution now is, and I know January isn't that far away, but it's internal, and it's like who is it? Who's going to? This is the thing, and I say it all the time. When your back's up against the wall, you're either a fighter or a passenger, and I'm just like, do you? For me, it's like, do you want to do something about this? Or do you want to carry on as you are? Because there's a lot of them there who a lot of the fans don't want there anyway, because they've said these are the bygone players of the Wenger era who arguably let him down, and then they also let Emery down. And I can buy into some of that, and I can't buy into the rest. But I'm like, a lot of them do need to, for as much as I'm critiquing Arteta and everything, a lot of them do need to wake up, like properly, and I mean properly wake up, because it's just all wrong. It's all wrong. It's just rotten, isn't it? I mean, he's not here to obviously defend himself, but when you knock all the optimism out of Neil, mate, there is a problem. That guy.
When it goes, doesn't it? Yeah, when it goes.
You know the first RoboCop, when they completely obliterate him to bits and they shoot off his arms and his hands and everything. Neil be standing there in the corner. Don't worry, mate. They're going to pick you up in the ambulance and they're going to make you a robotic machine and everything. You'll be fine. The guy's Mr. Positive, and I'm like, if you knock the positivity out of Neil,
after 8 or 9 games as well, it's devastating, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm like, we're not even at Christmas yet, and Neil's starting to ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a good look. I mean, Thursday, just wholesale change it. any of them that played at the weekend, the only one that I think that would play the same is Saka and Nelson, because I think
possibly Willock maybe.
Yeah, for Wolves with Partey being back, I think Xhaka goes out and he keeps Ceballos and Partey together.
Well, I think Ceballos is one of the few players that comes out with a little bit of credit. You know, Tierney maybe. I thought never stopped trying again. Bellerin going forward, was a little bit of a bright spot. Saka always is a bright spark.
Yeah, but we've got a bloody academy game the next day on the Friday versus Derby, and I'm like, I don't care. I want to see Smith Rowe on Thursday. I want to see Balogun on Thursday.
Is Balogun available? He got sent off, didn't he, for under 23s? How does that affect things?
Well, he should be allowed. He should be allowed to play in the Europa.
Throw him in there.
He should be starting because he's not allowed to play in the under 23s one.
Throw him in there. Yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing that Aziz play.
Yeah, nice on the ball.
If you're looking for another central midfielder.
I will.
I want to see our Busquets playing at centre back. You know, you got to remember Callum Chambers.
Oh gosh, yeah. He might feature. Yeah, I mean, just to finish up on this game, because I do want to talk to you about Mould and the Wolves game and how we set up, but it's the fixtures aren't every. That's when you know you're not a great side as well, because there's no fixture that you're confident in. Do you know what I mean? But we'll get to that. But just to finish up on the game, I mean, we got a point. I don't necessarily, for any belief, think we deserved a point. But you could argue we hung on in there, and we didn't lose a game. You wish you'd sort of hung on in there against the likes of Villa when we were 1-0 down and managed to sort of scrape when we were all there.
You'd love to be able to say it's a good point in the grand scheme of things, but it won't be if we bottle these next two.
No, and it's not because of the previous, losing at home games to Villa and Leicester and those games that you should win. So you're already playing huge catch up. But I genuinely think the reason I'm not relaxed about it, because I'm obviously devastated as an Arsenal fan, but I genuinely kind of my hope went away when I watched that Villa game, although I was positive after the United game, the performances have always bugged me since the start of the season, to be honest, since West Ham game hit really, and so I've kind of come to terms with the fact that we are going to be seeing another massively transitional, difficult year in the league for this team, and I don't think we'll be able to hang our hats on pretty much anything positionally in the league. And I think that is the way it is going to be, because there is just no indications from these performances that this team could put any sort of a run together whatsoever. And I know Mike is going to hate me for this, but come on, we're all thinking the same thing, aren't we? We're looking at that lot, and I am not looking at my fixture list anymore. I'm looking at their one, and I know people are going to say, I won't mention it.
Thing is,
but I tell you what,
you're looking at it on paper, and those games are never done on. You don't win those games on paper, mate. That's on heart, desire, and I'm like, so that again, I keep saying to you, these players need to wake up. If they don't wake up for that one, then it is time for the cull. Like, I'm talking big time for the cull.
Mate, I am really worried about that game, let alone the next two. Do you know what I mean? Because
on current consensus, mate, they could thump us like they thumped Man United.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't put it past.
Easily as well. Yeah. Easily to a canter.
Yeah. It's really worrying. It's really worrying, and it's such a difficult. It's just, big coaches come through this. So big coaches come through this, but this is a really difficult moment, and I don't think we should underestimate how difficult this moment is, because it's been a really, really poor start to the season, and those stats are just backing up what you're seeing. It's not like, don't worry, we'll turn it around. It's a lot of, we've got huge steps to make and strides to make, and I'm not sure I see all the answers. So let's talk about Mo. Like we said, going back to the positives though, we did move to a back four, and now he has moved to it. I think he has to ride with it. Because in a way, I mean, the argument there would be the real big test for it, and the question mark would be when you go away to a big team. So the derby in sort of 2 weeks' time, and there, I would be maybe hinting at, maybe we go back to it. But what I'm talking about is the general sort of, game in, game out. If you're going to move to it now, maybe it's time to try to stick with it, because let's face it, in an attacking sense, we weren't getting anything from the other system either. So what do we have to lose at this point? We have to find a way of creating more. Arteta can talk till the cows come home until about top 4 teams don't get into the top 4 without scoring 80, 90, 100 goals. Well, we're on track for about 45 at tops. Yeah. Tops. We've got 9. We're in track for 38 because we've got 9 in 9. So that's relegation. That's relegation scoring goals. Fulham have the same amount of goals than us. I know they've got 9 less points or whatever, but still. Mould image week. We still need a result there in order to qualify from the group. Or I think we'd need to win to probably win the group. I think a draw would probably see us through close-ish. But he's going to go there, I presume, James, with the intention of trying to win that game, because we want to have the last 2 games to really, truly rotate. Right? You're not going to go through the first 3 games like he did with relatively strong lineup and then drop completely to the youngsters. So, although I know you're saying, I don't think he'll rotate as much as we think, or much as we want, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, because I just think you lose that one. You kind of see with Tottenham, they lost one, didn't they? And now every game they basically they've got to go and win in every game. They can't really rest or rotate much. And I'd like to be able to fully rotate, like literally remove every underachieving first team player from the lineup. That's why I don't think he'll stick to the 4, mate. Because if you play the 4, then you need a natural left back, and I don't think he'll want to play Tierney twice. And we haven't got Kolasinac because of COVID, so he's going to have to play Niles, so probably will switch back. Or if he's going to do it, it's that Cottrell, or Bola, or whatever his name is. You play one of them younger kids at left back. Yeah, and I don't see him doing that. No, so I think it's going to be Cedric. Probably Mustafi, Louise, Chambers, and then Niles as the left wing back. Start Chambers, yeah. I think without obviously the Saliba thing, let's leave that, because I know you want to wrap it. Yeah, I know you want to wrap it up soon. No, it's just it's a whole other conversation. Yeah, and it's been handled terribly. Let's just say that. Chambers, hasn't it? I'm like, you need your players to get the minutes, and then. Like I said to you, Xhaka, I don't think he's going to play at the weekend to play him here. Willock, I don't think he's going to play at the weekend to play him here. I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to stick to 4-3-3 anymore, mate. The interesting thing was that maybe that was the indication. We said maybe a system change will force the Aubameyang central thing, and it did. We changed the system and he put Aubameyang central, so it does seem to indicate that he doesn't want to play Aubameyang central or even consider him there unless he plays a 4-2-3-1. I know I'm jumping the gun, but I think Wolves it'll be Lacazette, Nelson and Aubameyang. Well, there's an argument though, James, going back to Lacazette just before we finish up, there's an argument to say that he's so lacking in goals, and the longer that goes on, you play your 2 players that throughout their careers are known for scoring goals. Do you know what I mean? So as bad as Lacazette is, he may have to, which is what Emery basically did eventually, just laid into that. He may have to just play into that and say, I need to play my 2 best goal scorers all the time because I can't get goals in the team. Now, in order to get goals, you've got to create chances. That's his other problem. But he might have to. But just the one player I want to see start for this game is Smith Rowe for reasons we spoke about at the start. 100%. And I just want him to be fit, but I'd love to see 60 minutes out of him, and I'd love to see a positive performance where maybe he has a hint of getting in a first team squad. But Arteta's shown that he doesn't, it's taken a lot more for the youngsters to get into a first team squad. But again, it was positive to see Nelson and Willock make the squad and get some playing time in this first team. At least he made that change. So there were some positives lineup wise. It didn't look positive at all in the 90 minutes. But Mould in midweek, mate. Obviously, we spoke about changes. I'm going to do another pod after the Mould game, I think. What's your predictions for Mould in midweek?
I'm going to back the kids, so I'm going to go 2-0.
2-0. First scorer, your boy.
I'm going to go Smith Rowe, mate. I'm going to go for him.
Start, is he? He's going to start in the hole, is he?
Let's get Neil back up again. Let's raise Neil up.
Yeah, I enjoyed the midweek games more, probably because of the opposition, but also because the opposition, the coachable instructions.
It's nice to win, isn't it? It's nice to win.
It's nice to win. It's nice to watch a team that plays a little bit with the ball, not scared, not cowardly, not feeding off the coach's every word. Maybe. I don't know, but I look forward to the midweek games more in a way. So I'll say, I think we might just, I'll say 2-1. I say we get sneak a 2-1, and I'll say first score. I'll say your boy Eddie. I'll say Eddie will score first goal. I think he'll start. So
I hope he doesn't. I mean, like you said, Balogun's suspended.
But then, where does he get his minutes? Because I don't think he's starting on weekend either, Eddie. Maybe you think he will, but I don't think he will.
No. I don't think Eddie's playing against Wolves.
No, unless you want to play him in a front two. But again, that would be a big change. But yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it because I don't look forward to many Arsenal games at the moment the way we're playing. But I'll look forward to it more than the weekend ones, and then we'll come back after it. But James, it's been good, mate. We're on all your usual apps, YouTube. We post the links on @PurelyArsenalFP on Twitter, but just type in Purely Arsenal to YouTube or your podcast app or Spotify or Anchor or whatever podcast app you use. We are on there. And obviously, just one thing we didn't talk about was the Saka injury, which was from a suicidal ball from Aubameyang, by the way. And we hope, I couldn't tell, I have to watch it again, I couldn't tell if it was ankle or a hit to the knee. I was hoping it's the hit to the knee, because if it's a hit to the knee, it was just hopefully, it just looked like contact.
I think it's the knee.
I think we'll be all right then, because it just looked like studs to the knee, and hopefully that's not something that keeps him out. So hopefully he is also fit for next week. Again, I can't say anything worse about Gareth Southgate for playing him more than he plays his captain in Harry Kane, when he refused to pick Saka for about 6 months. I think it's absolutely disgraceful.
Don't want to keep laying into it, mate. But there's other bosses that pick that phone up. No, you don't play my players that much. And
you know Mourinho, after coming out and saying who name the managers, he's the first one on that list.
Yeah, of course he is.
So Arteta's saying, I'm going to still let Aubameyang go sleep on airport floors with Gabon. Nah, you've got to be tougher than that, mate. You've got to be tougher than that, and you've got to start laying into their ears. Look at what he did with Bale and Wales. Arsenal's coach is there. I want to have a word with you lot. You better not be. He doesn't even play Bale. He's just doing it for the sake of it. You need to play the game a little bit more. Klopp does it all the time. He just pulls his players out. When they were in the league, they just pulled them out. Unbelievable. But yeah.
Look at that yesterday, mate. They said that Robertson was injured. All our back four's done. All of a sudden he's playing, 2 assists yesterday?
Yeah, there you go. Klopp knows how to play the game. He knows that we can't be this naive with the internationals. You've got to play it at their own game to pull them out. Just pull them out. You're paying their wages. Pull them out. So, ridiculous. Mate, we will be back. It's Thanksgiving here on Thursday, so hopefully I've got something to give thanks for when I'm watching this absolute drab of a team in Arsenal. And then, obviously, Thanksgiving's more than that. But then, obviously, I'm off, so on Friday.
Load yourself up with mash, mate, if it works fails. Just get your
mash in. There you go.
Down in, mate.
Yeah, I'm gonna comfort eat. Either way, I'm gonna comfort eat. So yeah, but hopefully it's eating happily because of a win and a qualification from the group at the very least. Something to cheer about. That'd be nice. But James, thanks so much for coming on. We'll be back hopefully on Friday. Follow us, like I said, and up the Arsenal. Keep the faith. We've got to turn it around. Come on, boys.